AI has had a big impact for a long time when it comes to the machine learning side of AI in terms of exchange optimization and DSP optimization. I think that's extremely impactful, but also very mature, right? Where we're seeing, obviously, the new impact of AI is more on the generative AI side. I think I see that in two areas: creative, and where it's really a huge opportunity to create better creatives that are better targeted to the user, the context, kind of fulfilling maybe a lot of the original promise of native ads and going a step further, which could ultimately raise all boats. If advertisers can get better results from their ads, there's more money going into the ads ecosystem, and that's something that can really, lift the industry overall. So there's a lot of excitement there. I think obviously on the actual consumer side of things, there's a consumer change in behavior in terms of consumers interacting with AI platforms instead of traditional search and publisher websites. We're still early there. Publishers are seeing some impact. I think we get in a little bit of an echo chamber in terms of how many people are actually changing their behavior yet, but it's certainly starting, and it's starting with early adopters like people in the tech industry like us. And so that's obviously a more scary conversation, and figuring out how do we make sure we create a funding model for publishers. And there's some interesting startups that are cropping up there, as well as just interesting things that individual publishers, especially the bigger publishers, are starting to do. I think there's still a lot to explore here. I think it's very immature. I think one thing I've seen is that there's the potential, particularly on the sort of measurement and attribution side, for AI to be really good at post facto connecting different points of ad delivery and attribution with signals that we couldn't have picked up on before. Much subtler ways of figuring out, let's say behind a shared IP device, who are the different users that are behind that shared IP, and doing more accurate attribution modeling, which is essentially also more accurate device graph modeling. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I do think publishers are anxious. I think we should all be a little bit anxious, because we all need publishing to thrive. And in particular, we really all need journalism to thrive, right? And this is the model that we've come up with that works most scalably for most journalists. And so I think it's really on all of us to make sure we are coming up with new standards, new companies, new products that help this work. And I do believe it's really ultimately in the interest of the AI platforms as well. They depend on publishers creating content to create their product. And so I think we're just starting to reckon with where this is going to go. But it's something to worry about, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for a new business model that can actually add value to the ecosystem and create potentially a new revenue stream for publishers that maybe is ultimately more sustainable than the prior revenue stream, which was starting to depend on things that weren't always friendly to consumers, right? Was starting to depend. You see a lot of publishers with really high ad loads and ad refresh rates and things as they're trying to figure out how to keep their business funded. Maybe this is an opportunity to actually create better, more engaging, more respectful ads that are sort of designed for this new AI paradigm that can obviously simultaneously make sure we can fund journalism and content creation. I don't know if it's a moment, but what I think is kind of unique about Cannes is it feels like, for some reason, there is such positivity here about everybody just trying to work together to make things better. And I think every meeting I have had is about how can we be better together, not how can we beat some competitor or somehow gain advantage over someone else. So it feels like there's a lot of positive momentum out of Cannes. I think that's true every year to some extent, and the challenge is how do you turn that into action post-Cannes? But that's kind of the cool thing about the environment here is I think I don't know if it's the sun or something, but there's just a lot of sense of let's work together to improve things.